Hello, welcome to Evolve with Natu. My name is Natu. If this is the first time you're tuning in, welcome aboard. Karibu sana. We love having you here. And if you're a returning viewer and or subscriber, thank you so much for your support. It means a whole lot. So in this channel, we talk about a lot of things, particularly on self-improvement and self-development journey. And we focus on topics such as professional development, personal development, financial management, spiritual growth, just to name a few. Today's episode is particularly sponsored by Beauty Profs or Fusion Global. And for our esteemed customers or clients, we have a discount code for you to purchase your hair products. And this is especially for those of you who always ask, how do I maintain my hair? Why is my hair so healthy? So I'm not a gatekeeper. I am here to share the secrets with you, and Beauty Prof is that secret. So make sure that you make your purchase using the discount code NATU, and I'm going to leave that on the link below. So without further ado, today I am delighted to talk about salary negotiation. So it is estimated at least 40% of the employees do not negotiate their salaries when they are hired on a new job or being offered a different role within an organization. And of that, at least 60% women do not negotiate their salaries. So there's a lot of reasons why people don't negotiate their salaries, and how there's also a lot of reasons why people should negotiate their salaries. So in today's episode, I'm going to cover why people normally do not negotiate their salaries, why they should negotiate their salaries, and what are the tips that you should use in negotiating your salary, and most importantly, what are the things that you should be negotiating for when you get a new job other than your salary. So let's get started. So I came up with 5 reasons why people normally would not negotiate for their salary. The first is lack of information or awareness. So oftentimes when people get hired for a new position or they're offered a different role, they normally don't realize that the salary range that's offered or the offer that they're given is not the best offer. So oftentimes people will just accept that salary without doing a research to understand it, or to know rather whether they need to be compensated better. So whether it's salary or other perks that comes with that job. So they usually just accept the best offer or the first offer that they're given, which is not necessarily the best offer. So the second reason why people don't negotiate their salary is because they are risk averse. They are afraid of rocking the boat. So oftentimes, especially people who have been dreaming of a certain job or who have been wanting a job, especially if you've been out of the workforce, and when you're offered a job, some people feel that if they start asking or negotiating for the salary or compensation, there's a likelihood that they might not get that job. And as such, they avoid negotiating the salary, which oftentimes they're usually shortchanging themselves. And I'll explain later how are they depriving themselves by not negotiating their salary. The third reason why people might not negotiate their salary is they just don't have confidence in their abilities or what they have to offer. So they often think that what they're offering isn't good enough or worthy of advocating for themselves or negotiating for better compensation. And as such, they don't go for it. They hold back and they just accept whatever offer is given to them. And the fourth reason why people do not negotiate salary is because they're just content with what they're given. And there's nothing wrong with that. They're not looking for anything more, anything less, and they're just comfortable with what they're given. And why should they rock the boat? If they're comfortable with their salary or the compensation that they offered, what's the point of asking for more? And the fifth reason why people avoid negotiating salary is often the societal norms, especially stereotypes that are associated maybe with certain demographic, particularly women. Women, when they start negotiating, they're considered to be bossy or pushy. So the society has certain expectations on communication styles and how people should carry themselves. And when people don't fit into those molds, then they're being casted as a stereotype that they're not fitting in. So particularly for women, they avoid to stepping out of their comfort zone or the stereotypes of being considered docile and polite and being collaborative. And there's nothing wrong with being collaborative, but the people pleasing aspect sometimes prevents them from negotiating the salary. Now, with those 5 reasons why people shouldn't negotiate the salary, I have 5 reasons why people need to negotiate the salary. Number 1, it's important you negotiate your salary so that you can increase your earnings, your financial earnings particularly, and other compensations that come with the job offer, whether it's vacation, whether it's professional development, just to name a few. So when you're negotiating for your salary and the perks that come with your salary, you are increasing the likelihood of you being able to earn over the course of time versus you just choosing the offer that's given to you in the first place, especially if other people in the same position are being offered a higher compensation compared to you. So it's very, very important for you to negotiate your salary if you think you deserve to earn more based on your value. The second reason is you're demonstrating what your value is when you negotiate for your salary. When you fail to negotiate for your salary, people can't necessarily advocate for your values and what you bring to the table. So when you sit there and you communicate your value proposition and what is it that you deserve to be compensated, then people understand where you stand and what is it that they need to offer you, whether they have it or they don't. And if they don't, they also have the liberty to tell you, hey, we don't. And that's perfectly fine. And also, when you negotiate your salary, it affects your career trajectory. Lack of negotiating your salary, rather. So, for instance, if you're being offered a salary, and I'm just going to use Canadian dollars, $50,000, and your incremental increase is 4% every year. If you're looking to move maybe to a similar position, a different position, and within the organization, and if they have a pay scale that you have to adhere to, it will be very hard for you to be seeking a higher amount. Whereas maybe if you started at 70,000, you negotiated maybe up to 20,000 more than what they offered you. When you're asking to be moved to a higher position, the likelihood of you being offered higher than the 70,000 is higher. So it's very important that when you're starting, you're negotiating a higher value, especially if you're looking to stay with a company within a certain period of time, because the incremental increases are usually smaller for certain industries. It's within 2 to 5% at most. Rarely will you hear people get 10% salary increase. So when you negotiate upfront, you are increasing the likelihood of your financial value or your financial earnings over the course of time. Or rather, you're maximizing your earnings. And most importantly, I don't know how it works for most of the people, but particularly for myself, when I'm being compensated fairly and according to my skills and experiences, I'm motivated and I feel engaged. And I'd like to think it works for a lot of people. So it's important for you to negotiate for a better compensation or the best compensation for your skills and your experience so that you can feel motivated and you can feel engaged in your work. As research shows, people who aren't compensated fairly are usually less motivated and less engaged in their work versus their peers who are better compensated. Now, with all that said, I think what you're wondering is, how do I go about negotiating for compensation, particularly on your salary. So I've also come up with 5 different tips on how you can go about this. Number 1, know your value proposition. What is it that you bring to the table? So make sure that you assess your skill sets. What is it that you offer in terms of skills, experience, and make sure that you are able to articulate that, because you knowing what you offer is good, but you also have to be able to sell that to the person who's recruiting you or interviewing you, so that they understand that you are of value to them, or you are adding something to the people who are hiring you or employing you. And that's not enough. So number 2, you have to do research and finding out what are your peers within the industry doing the same kind of job being compensated. So you can do research by checking different job boards, different professional work networks such as LinkedIn, reaching out to your peers who are in the same industry and asking them honest questions. What is the salary range for this role, and whether or not your skill set do meet that salary range. That way, when a recruiter or when a company is approaching you, you have a baseline or a range rather of what you think you deserve to be compensated. Number 3, avoid providing a number or a range unless the employer or the recruiter has offered that range. So whenever they ask you what your compensation is, hold back and tell them, I'd love to learn more about the job. I'd love to learn more about the professional growth structure. And I'd rather hold this conversation until this interview process is done, especially when they're asking you for this while you're interviewing. And if they're pressing you for a number, ask them for time to think and research, especially if you haven't done your research. And if you're pressed, there's different school of thought. There are people who will tell you, provide a range. Instead of providing a single number, provide a range. And there's some people who will tell you, just provide a digit. You choose what you think is best for you based on your industry. But either way, I would urge you to hold back providing that number, ask what their number is, and then take the time to assess where is it that you need to negotiate, whether if the salary is also within the range that you are expecting, and to what percentage should you be asking more, and what are the other things that you can also ask for in terms of compensation if salary is not an option. Number 4, make sure that you're going with a leverage. And what do I mean by a leverage? If you are interviewing by position, hopefully that you're also interviewing for other position, and you are making sure that you're communicating that to the recruiter that you're also in demand. That way that they know that the person that they're pursuing is also being poached or being approached by other employers. And you interviewing or you being recruited by other companies or other employers is not good enough. I cannot stress enough, be able to communicate your value proposition. What experience are you bringing? What skill sets are you bringing? What kind of impact do you foresee having on the company that's recruiting you? That, combining with the leverage of other companies are looking to poach me or employ me, will give you a leverage or better foot in the door. However, this doesn't always work, especially if you're looking for a promotion within the organization. You do not want to show that you are actually interviewing somewhere else, because that might create distrust among your superiors at work. So you normally use this strategy if you're interviewing outside of the organization. Now, the last one is make sure that you have your walkaway point. Make sure that you're just not settling for any offer. Make sure you have a figure in mind of, this is the last figure that I'll accept. If they're not able to offer you that figure, it's okay to walk away. And this ties in knowing what is it that your value is. And you can only know your value by doing research, by being able to showcase what is it that you have done, and understanding where do you stand within the industry standards, and making sure that you're always communicating facts and not feelings. What is it that you should be compensated versus what is it that you need to be compensated. So it's not what you need, but what is it that you're able to bring to the table, and how is it that they can be able to attach it, whether it's a dollar figure or depending on whatever compensation it is that they're offering you. So what are the things that people should normally negotiate for? It's a no-brainer. Number one, your salary. That is, unless you're working for, you're giving your services for charity, salary is the utmost important or priority item in the list. And by that, you're always, as I said, make sure that you research and find out what is the range or what is the amount that people in your industry are normally paid. Number two, the benefits. So this is an umbrella of a lot of things. It includes your health insurance. It includes your dental insurance. It includes your retirement benefits. It includes things like parental leave, vacation, making sure that you're negotiating all of that upfront. Professional development, just to name a few. By doing so, it helps most of us having a work-life balance, especially for people who are looking for things like hybrid work environment or remote work environment, parental leave for those of you who have kids or anticipating to have children in the near future. The other thing that people tend to overlook is the bonuses, and there are two types of bonuses, or there are multiple bonuses, but for the sake of this discussion, we're going to focus on two. The signing bonus, so the bonus that you get once you sign in for the job, and the performance-based bonus, so the bonuses that you get based on your performance, whether it's quarterly, whether it's yearly, biannually, depending on what the company structure is. So making sure that you're negotiating those upfront. And as I mentioned earlier, these will determine your financial earnings over a course of period of time. The other item that you should also be negotiating for is your, a word came to mind and it just skipped me. Company equity. So this is not something that I'm used to, and that's why it just wasn't top of mind. I had to write this one down. And this is particularly for my friends who are working or aspiring to work in tech industries. So company equity is usually a stock of a company. You have a certain percentage. Once you own a stock, you have a certain percentage of the ownership into the company. So as the company value increases, so is your stock value, and so are your earnings. Now, the last bit, this is not very common, but I think it's important, is you need to negotiate your severance package. Should the company decide to part ways with you for whatever reasons that are beyond your control, so you're not fired, maybe for misconduct and stuff, it's just maybe the company is dissolved or they're going in a different direction, making sure that you're negotiating for a fair and reasonable severance package, and reasonable based on your standards, based on what is it that you bring to the table. That said, I am curious to know, what are your tips for salary negotiation, and what are the things that you think are drawback from people not negotiating salaries? I'd love to learn more, and I have a lot to share on salary negotiation, particularly on the mistakes that people make, but I'll share that in the next episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you have not subscribed already, I would kindly appreciate if you do so, and make sure that you share this channel with your family and friends. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I wish you a lovely day. Bye-bye.